and Zoom Gali Gali, the old Israeli pioneer song, chosen for our opening because we are forging new paths during this pandemic. Like a podcast, we at Congregation Micah have created this Zoomcast called Ancient Secrets, where you can meet God's actual cast and glean some wisdom from them. Practical advice from our sages, past and present, and what they have to say about surviving and even thriving during these times of social distancing. I'm Rabbi Flip of Congregation Micah, and we're coming to you from the Buckle of the Bible Belt, Nashville, Tennessee, to introduce you to these theological giants of our past. After each interview, we will reveal the true identity of our guests, and they will reveal a bit about their own theology, as well as the missions of the organizations they've dedicated their lives to serving. So put on your imagination caps, get ready for some brain candy. Our guest today represents an important link in the Shashelet HaKabbalah, the chain of our tradition. She plays an important role in the history of all Western religious faiths. She and her husband Boaz were the great-grandparents of King David, whose offspring are said to usher in the Messiah. That's quite a bloodline. She's described as the penultimate model of chesed, loving kindness, acting in ways that promote the well-being of others. What a perfect guest during this pandemic. One of only 2 women to have a book of the Bible named for her, and the name itself means companionship. Visiting us from the 5th century before the Common Era, that's more than 2,500 years ago, a regular fountain of Ruth. That's right, we welcome to the program the biblical character, Ruth, the former Moabite.
Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you gotta do is call, and I'll be there, yes I will, you've got a friend.
Hello, Shalom Aleichem, and welcome to the program.
Rabbi Flip, thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor to be a part of a theological conversation intended for everyone to understand. And with such technological advancements, Godcasts were big in my day too, but only prophets could hear them.
How are you coping, Ruth, during this tricky time of social isolation?
I find it especially important to maintain friendships. It's a great coping mechanism. It's just wonderful nowadays that even during this time of social distancing, it's still so easy to connect. It keeps us from being socially isolated. When I was young and a friend moved away, you just said goodbye. That's what I did when I left Bethlehem for Judea, and the Jewish people welcomed me, even though I was a Moabite by birth. My husband having passed, it was my mother-in-law, Naomi, who befriended me. She really taught me the power of bonding with someone. Now, with social media, the ability to continue relationships is so easy and powerful. Plus, Judaism is meant to be lived in community. That's the hard part during these weeks, that we're told to stay home. We're just not good at being hermits. Being together is where most of us find meaning, in relationship. That's the message of my whole Megillah.
You came to know God through relating to others?
Rabbi Flip, I consider you a friend. We may disagree on various matters or value certain things differently, but because you're a friend, essentially, wherever you go on your sacred journey, I go. Your people are my people, and your God is my God.
Dr. Martin Buber, born hundreds of years after you, revealed a great truth about life, about knowing God and understanding theology. He said that it requires moving from a life of I-it relationships to a life of I-thou relationships, meaning dissociating from the attitude of seeing things as objects, as its that are separate from us, which we just use, versus the attitude of seeing things as a thou, a relationship in which others are not as distinctly separate by discrete boundaries. All of this is just a fancy way to say that human life finds its ultimate meaningfulness in relationship with others. But how does it work?
Yes, this Martin Buber is correct. Like a lot of women, I was just onto it way before him. Fundamentally, his it refers to the world we experience. By contrast, the word pair I, thou describes the world of relations, living relationships, friends, partners, soulmates. who offer us the opportunity to learn, to love, and to be loved. Not someone who fulfills your desires. That's not a partner. That's a housekeeper. Rather, I'm speaking of someone who propels you to become the person you are meant to be. It is a strange existential fact that not one of us can see our own face unaided. It is also true that we cannot see our souls unaided. Only in relationships, in intimacy, will you come to know who you really are.
Why are relationships so powerful to your theology?
Rabbi Flip, let's pose this to all the listeners this way. Who is with you in your life? Who knows you and cares for you? Who do you know intimately and care for deeply? Like James Taylor and or Carole King put it, winter, spring, summer, or fall. Is there someone you could call at 3 a.m. and say, I need you? And they'd say, I'm coming. That's wealth beyond measure.
Soulmates, friendships. Ruth, you've told me before that they don't follow a linear logic of economics, of investment and return. It's more of a moral logic and somewhat paradoxical. You give in order to get. You sacrifice in order to gain. You lose yourself in order to find yourself. Can you explain that a little further, please?
Well, Rabbi Flip, the name of the spiritual community you lead with Rabbi Lori, Congregation Micah, has its central text in the charge to seek justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. We've all been humbled by the power of this pandemic. It has reminded us that each of us are not the sole authors of our own destiny. A butcher slaughters the wrong animal in a market in China, and look what happens to the whole world. I cannot think of a more poignant example in your times or mine that reveal the interconnectedness of us all. Plus, none of us are self-made. We're all the products of myriad acts of self-sacrifice by others who created our world, protected us, sustained us, cared for us, assured us opportunities, and asked nothing in return.
What do relationships really take?
Whew, that's a tough one. Relationships take devotion, commitment, persistence, nowadays a good internet connection. Oh, and one more quality, the rarest of qualities. They take courage, because each of these gifts, humility, love, purpose, creativity, growth, they all involve vulnerability. The first time you look into the eyes of another person and say, I love you, and you wait, and you hope, and you pray that they will say, I love you too. There is no guarantee. If that damn virus has taught us anything, it is this. There is no certainty in life. And so there is no certainty in love. I was a widow with no thoughts of ever having children. And then one day I did. After I did, I came to know the vulnerability of investing your heart and soul into another you cannot control. And I could not be prouder of my grandchildren. But think of the pressure. They will one day rule and hopefully save the world. Rabbi Flip, when I was young, my first husband, Micah, zichrono livracha, may his memory be a blessing. We went together to the doctor. I sat there with him when the physician said, this is cancer. And the chill I felt at that moment, the tickle in my throat, the pain in my chest, that's the vulnerability of love. It took courage for me to love again. It takes courage to care. A life of cynicism, pessimism, self-absorption, or solitude is obviously much safer. No risk there, but also no rewards, divine or otherwise.
Wow. So we're coming up on another big holiday in Judaism, Shavuot, when Jews worldwide will read your story. And right in the beginning of that story, you demonstrate several acts of chesed, of loving kindness. Instead of returning to Moab, you accompany your mother-in-law to what is for you a foreign land. And then you chose to glean in the fields alone, despite the danger you faced as a young woman.
You're very kind, but they were both acts of self-preservation. What people today emphasize during the coronavirus pandemic and call self-care. And a part of this, for what this is for me, is being kind to myself and others. Most kind people have good friends. So I encourage everyone nowadays to follow this example of choosing to acquire and maintain contact with other people. Go deeper with the folks you're trapped with and reach out to others by phone, by Facebook, or whatever works best for you. Stay connected to partners and friends because in addition to helping develop your character, They are also nourishing your soul.
Are you on Facebook, Ruth?
Not yet, but I am positive about the power, the necessity of friendships. And I'm glad you're one of mine.
I'm glad we're friends too. And I look forward to reading your story on Shavuot. I also want to thank you for reminding us of how important it is from a Jewish perspective on staying connected. You could say that nowadays it's another inconvenient Ruth. But now it's time to reveal the heroine behind the heroine. First, a word from our sponsor.
A proud sponsor of Ancient Secrets, Congregation Micah is a vibrant Reform synagogue serving all of Middle Tennessee, offering creative and diverse ways to celebrate Jewish life using the rich beliefs and practices of modern Reform Judaism as its foundation.
Daniela Pressner is the headmaster of Akiva, Nashville's only Jewish day school. Born in Jerusalem, she grew up in Chicago, studied religion and dance at Barnard College, earned a master's of Judaic studies at Vanderbilt, and has spent time learning at the Drisha Institute in New York City, the Pardes Institute in Israel, as well as the Harvard Graduate School of Education. Her writings have been published in numerous journals, and she lectures nationally on curricular design and implementation. Most importantly, she cares about children and supporting their spiritual journeys. She even taught my kids Hebrew. Married to Rabbi Saul Strasberg of Congregation Israel, and the mother of 4 spunky children that my children also babysit, we welcome to the program, Daniela Pressner. Hey.
Hello, Rabbi Flip. Thank you
today.
so much for having me.
Hey, Ruth you were excellent. I would like to ask you a few questions about your own theology and a little bit more about your role in the community. I like to begin just by saying, what makes you get out of bed in the morning? What keeps you up at night?
I think what gets me out of bed in the morning is very literal. My children, they get me out of bed every morning.
And is that just your children or all of the children that attend the Akiva Jewish Day School?
Both. I would say both. First, my own that you can hear in the background currently. And then definitely the Akiva kids. I think about them day and night, but not only them, I also think about their parents and I think about their grandparents, and I think about the board members and the donors who really all make Akiva possible. And especially during this time, I think it is so important to really be thinking about everybody that makes the community the special place that it is.
Yeah, and you do such a nice job then of incorporating the sort of entire community. I was speaking with the Rabbi Akiva, also your husband, not long ago, and we were talking about the overall sort of picture that you bring to kids. That we recognize their souls and their emotional growth. In addition, you've also done so well, I know, of being involved with pivoting quickly during this crisis to be able to offer online learning. Is there anything that you're scared of or that keeps you up at night that you worry about?
I think every child is going to look and experience this differently. And I think every family is having their own hardships. So I think those are the things that I really worry about. I know academically that our kids will be able to make up a month of school or a month and a half of school. I know that our amazing teachers are going to be committed to helping them persevere and move forward next year and know where they're coming in next year. But I think the most important thing for us right now is to really maintain their souls and their sense of character and their sense of belonging to something that's bigger than themselves, because this is really what's going to carry them through this difficult time.
Are there ways that you personally connect to God, or practices maybe that you recommend for others?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because I think most people or many people feel connected to God when they go to prayer or when they see something beautiful outside, a beautiful landscape, a beautiful mountain, or when they're thankful for making it through some sort of disaster, whether it's a car crash or a bad health moment. I think that I actually feel most connected to God in learning Jewish texts. I love learning texts. I love taking a piece of the Torah, of the Chumash, and reading it and thinking about its relevance to all of us. I love taking a conversation in the Talmud, the back and forth, and thinking that this is amazing that it's created centuries ago and that still has so much relevance today. So to me, I see God in the words that the texts of our tradition provide.
Yeah. We I don't know, maybe you've heard before, we like to say when we pray, we talk to God, and when we study, God talks to us. So
Yeah.
similarly, I think the rabbis of the past, sort of when that light went on above them, that feeling of knowing something and really knowing it, or an insight or learning, I mean, I think they loved it so much. It's probably another reason they emphasize study.
Yeah. I think the most beautiful piece about it is when you're learning with somebody else. At Akiva, we do chavruta learning, and chavruta comes from the shorash, the root word friend. And this friend that you learn with, whoever that friend is supposed to push you to think more deeply and challenge you to give an argument that's better to support your claim, as opposed to just go with what your initial thought is. And I think that's really, when you talk about Ruth and friendships, that's really what friendships are about, is they push you to be a deeper and a more soulful human being. And I think when you learn with a friend, you have this opportunity to really grow and deepen your relationship, not only with yourself, but your relationship with God. And I have one more thing to add to that, actually. I've been studying for 3 years at a place called Yeshivat Maharat, and I learn twice a week with a woman who lives in Australia. So for me, it's 10:30 p.m. when we start, and we usually go until 11:30 or 12:30. And for her right now, it's 1:00 in the afternoon the next day, but it goes all the way up to a 5-hour difference, and then obviously change the AM to the PM, or the PM to the AM. Right. And I think that even though we're, miles and miles away, we have both deepened our friendship with each other and our relationship with these texts of our tradition.
I feel like Judaism has this ancient formula for building community, and we try to apply it here at Micah, and I see it happening at Akiva, which I want to hear about next. And that is, the things that bond people together require a certain vulnerability. So learning together and eating together and praying together or singing together, these are things that sort of help unite us. And I see that happening all the time at the Jewish Day School. So just take a few minutes if you can and tell us all you can about Akiva.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about Akiva is that it really brings together kids of all different backgrounds. So, we have Orthodox, conservative, Reform, Chabad, unaffiliated students, just coming from backgrounds, of all different ways of observances. Some families who do not want to observe at all in their homes, but send their children to Akiva to be able to observe there. And really, I think what's so beautiful about that is every single one of our kids really learn to think deeply and to ask really important questions about getting to know the other. I think our society and our community just put so much focus on othering other people and saying, I'm here and you're there and you're different because this reason, and you're different because of that reason. And I think really what our kids so value at Akiva is getting to know the other and bringing them closer. And so it's not just about you being different, but it's about knowing, why are you different, and how does that difference make you really special and beautiful to me? And I think our kids model that in such beautiful ways every single day. And they're kids, so they are going to ask, crazy questions that maybe as adults we wouldn't feel as comfortable asking. But I think that's the beauty of it all, is that they're willing to ask, and they're willing to really deeply engage and wonder in a way that I think all of us can learn from every single day.
Well, yeah, what I love about children, obviously, is that they have lower inhibitions. So when Miss Lisa picks up the guitar, all of a sudden the body starts moving. And I don't know, there's just something beautiful about it. I think you've done such a wonderful job with that school. I think it's kicking on all cylinders. It seems very, very clear. My kids loved being there and have very fond memories. And like you said about observance, regardless of the level of observance they choose in their own lives, they're familiar with it. They're not thrown back. They feel comfortable in all the sort of Jewish settings that they're in. You taught them Hebrew, so I have a lot to thank you personally for as well. Any other things you want to tell us?
I think if anyone's interested in thinking about it, even if you have it in the back of your mind and thinking, no, I don't think my kid would ever go there, I don't think our family is the right fit, like, I encourage you to reach out. Give me a call. We can talk over Zoom or talk in person 6 feet away. And I really mean it deeply. I want people to come closer and to feel closer to this really special school. And I think our kids have really, I've learned from every single child that comes to this school, and I hope that every single child has felt like they have learned and grown into a more thoughtful and committed and concerned individual for the global world. And I think that's what really impresses me about our Akiva kids, is that they're so committed, they're so concerned. And I know Rabbi Flip, Rabbi Lori has shared stories with me of your kids going on into their other schools and really inviting kids into their circle and not being afraid to say you do belong. And I think that's really what this is all about, is welcoming more and more people in.
Yeah. Well, we are happy to provide as much information as we can. I'll encourage everybody to take tours. We'll put the website and that stuff up there as well. Make sure they can get in touch with you. We at Congregation Micah, thank you so much for your playfulness and your depth and what you do to serve our community. I don't remember the exact phrase from the Talmud, but it said something like, if there's a town without a Jewish school, the town should be abolished. So I'm glad you've got going on what you've got going on, and we hope you go from strength to strength.
Thank you, Rabbi Flip. I really appreciate your time.
Sure, and yours. Thanks also to our viewers out there. We look forward to having you join us next time on Congregation Micah's Ancient Secrets, Past Wisdom for the Present Pandemic. Like a podcast, it's a Zoom cast where you can meet God's actual cast. That's it. It's over. If you want more information on Ruth or Akiva, you can Google them. Peace out.